all of these different tribes and nations from around the world are coming together to speak to one another for the very first time, talking about their prophecies and such. So the Great Gathering is intended to assist in whatever way they choose to share some of that with the world. So we intend on getting messages from them and then simply sharing them free of charge to the people. That's one thing. The second part of it is that it's about bringing together information and knowledge from the scientific world, from the technical world, and from scholars from around the world and people that have information to share on sustainable products, sustainable projects, sustainable ideas. Sustainable meaning that it is for the betterment of humanity and the earth, and that it brings about a positive change or infrastructure that can then be built on within communities and cities around the world. So we're intending on beginning projects around the earth, around the planet, as long as our funding is provided, to be able to start a project, get people trained in it, and then have them pay it forward so that it blossoms back out and then actually does create change on a grassroots level. Also, there is the aspect of physically bringing people together into gatherings to share information and knowledge. And I'm going to tell you that the plan that we have for that, I'm going to keep a little bit top secret for now, because it's going to blow everyone's minds once we get to that point of how we're going to share that with the audience from around the world. Also, bringing people together that can create actual projects that will facilitate those paying it forward changes that we need so desperately at this time. Also, it's about bringing people together from around the world to begin conversations. And this is where the spiritual aspect or the religious aspect of it comes into play. Because the conscious coming together of humanity, is critical in our changing time, because it is the only path. It is the only path to change. One person, one group, one organization cannot possibly change the world. I believe that one person can motivate the world to change, but it takes the world to actually get on board and start doing the work to make it happen. So one person has the ability to change the world through that motivation, that public speaking, and we've seen this. We've seen this when we look at people like Martin Luther King, or Gandhi, or Mother Teresa, or the Dalai Lama, or the people like this, Nelson Mandela. And that truly is, if you take a look at each one of those people that managed to motivate, that managed to bring people together and bring them forward into creating positive change, one thing that I believe each one of them had is a spiritual or religious base within them to do that. And so, yes, I do believe that the spiritual consciousness of humanity is playing a role, and a very critical one, in the further development of our world, and the further development of what it is that we want for our future. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did, actually. I was going to mention that one of the... have you ever heard of, I think it's called Ecodome, or Eco Home? Not Eco Home, but like Ecodome, where they're similar in the sense that what they do is they build these houses made of dirt, pure dirt, and then they put clay on the outside, and they're very cheap to make. I think it's like $5,000 to $10,000 to make one of these homes. And their idea is to teach people how to make this so they can go to other parts of the world and do the same thing. So when you were talking about this, I was just thinking of different things that people are actually doing that are similar to what you're doing.
Absolutely. And I actually have been to see them. They're out in California.
Yes.
Cal Earth. Yes, I have been to Cal Earth. I actually went to Cal Earth. I was there the same day as I had my car accident in LA, of all places. But it was a really wonderful experience. People are. This is the thing. This is the key. It's only through a spiritual acceptance of one another, spiritual or religious acceptance of one another in whatever form, okay, whether it's spiritual, religious, or other. Until we begin to have a really great respect for each other as human beings, we are not going to be able to create massive change. Now, all of these groups and organizations that are around the world have all been working tirelessly on their own, what I would say is they're very focused on what they're doing. For example, Cal Earth is focused on these dome buildings. That's their mandate. That's what they focus on. That's what they've been doing. What I'm suggesting is that once the Great Gathering website actually gets into movement, and gets flowing, it will actually be able to link people up from around the world to be able to get more information and exposure about the project that they're doing with Cal Earth, for example, and link it up with another organization in Zambia, for example. And that information may be a little bit easier to find and follow, and to actually follow through on with the way that the Great Gathering is going to be put together. And so the Great Gathering is also going to be a great informational site to bring groups, people, and organizations together for their information. And there's going to be a forum area where, no matter where you're living, it's going to take you, pretty much 3 minutes to sign up to the Great Gathering website, go to the forum, and find out if there's people in your local area that are interested in the Great Gathering or in facilitating some type of a project, or that have the same thinking as you do. And it's going to be very quick and easy for you to do that. And so it's about putting people and people together. And that actually does have to do with the consciousness, because the thread through all of this is that the people participating are all focused on the same conscious thought, which is humanity and the earth, self-sustainability, respect, honor, and moving forward. It's based on these things.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that. What I've noticed in my life personally is that once I started to learn how to love myself and learn to respect myself and really try to find more about my spirituality, that I noticed that I would get answers. And I know this happens to you a lot, Miriam, where you start getting answers very easy, whether through a vision or someone happens to mention it before you even ask the question. And then I feel like from there it becomes easier to change the world. But as I always say, if you don't have your things together, or if your bridges are broken around you, then it's kind of hard to fix your neighbor's bridge.
A bit of a difference on how you actually term your question. Kind of popped into my head. Mother Teresa said that she would not go to a war rally, but she'll go all day long to peace rallies. So, an anti-war gathering, she would go all day long to peace rallies. So I think it has something to do with the way you're framing your questions too, and that's the consciousness thing, because I think there's a certain aspect of what we are experiencing here that is kind of non-personal. The universe wants to deliver everything that we're asking for, but we got to term it right. We got to know what we're asking for, and we have to speak in its language, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. There is universal language, and that universal language, I say this to myself, and I say this to other people, and I say it to myself a lot. Be careful what you ask for, because you're going to get exactly what you're asking for. So make sure that you use the right words and you choose them very, very carefully. There is something to be said about that, because for myself, I speak a lot with people. Building this website has been a real challenge for me because it's so detailed in certain aspects of it, and I've worked with a number of different people to create it. It hasn't just been with one person. And what I recognize is that certain people that I have worked with in the past have not understood me. It's like we're speaking two entirely different languages. And, they'll ask me a question. I say, I don't know how to answer you. And in the creation of the nonprofit, the person who's helping me with that, I looked at them 2 days ago, and I looked at after 5 minutes of rambling at them, and I said, I don't know how to answer you. I don't even know what question to ask. I know what I need to do, but I said I can't get my point across because I don't know how to do that right now. I have to think about it because the choice of words means so much. And so this actually does tie into the consciousness, and it ties into where we're going, because people have become more aware of what they're saying to each other and how they're reacting towards themselves. Because I'm not a perfect person, I am not a perfect person by any means. I'm actually, in many ways, have a very average, normal life with all the same issues and problems that other people have with, money and relationships and all of this type of thing. Everyone has those. If you're in a human body, you're going to have issues of some kind. But the synchronicities and how the synchronistic world has been showing itself is actually interesting, because that has been speeding up over the course of the last few years. And if you remember last year, I think that probably a lot of people I say that they were crazy last year. And the ETs actually told me about this time when there would be many, many people who, because of the different physical energies, one might say, that are out there, and because of how these synchronicities are being shown to us, it's kind of like saying that we're moving into a time of insanity. When it's hard to focus, it's hard to stay looking at one thing, and it's becoming easier and easier now. It's lessening, and we're becoming much clearer, and it's as though we're coming out of a fog.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yes. And the synchronicities are crazy at times, because they're just happening left and right. At least once a day I have a synchronicity.
I live in a synchronistic world. It's quite startling at times. What's amazing is when other people recognize the synchronicity within other people's lives. That actually, yes, that kind of thing gives me goosebumps, because then it makes me know that, hey, they saw it. Yay! Okay, maybe they'll actually acknowledge it, and they'll do something with this now.
What about
it's like...
Go ahead, Mary.
It's like describing it this way, okay? If the universe is made up of a round pond of water, and in the center of the pond a pebble is dropped, the very first thing that happens is at least one ripple moves out. Now, let's pretend that little pebbles keep getting dropped into the water, okay? And the pebbles get smaller and smaller and smaller, which means that the first ripple that's going towards the shore is going to be the biggest, the strongest. These are the people that are out in the forefront. They're the ones that are being called crazy. They're the ones that, who are seeing things, seeing the unseen. They're the ones that are beginning to understand the synchronistic world, to put together information, to put together ideas and thoughts about energies that the scientists are only beginning to understand today. Those people are the ones that are really sensitive. They are normally psychic or healers, gifted in some way. Maybe they play music, or they're artists, or they're exceptional and unique in our world. These people are the first ripples. It does not mean that the rest of the pond is not connected to that. It means that as the pebbles get smaller and smaller, every